happy to be joined here with Dr. Jermilah Mahmood, someone who I adore and very much respect. She is the Undersecretary General for Partnerships for the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Dr. Mahmood, welcome.
Thank you, Hazami. It's wonderful to see you again.
Wonderful to see you again. We used to work together.
I know. And we still are.
We do all day, every day. And I think you have taught me how to redefine work in the humanitarian space because it is ongoing.
Absolutely.
And I think one of the questions that I'd like to actually open with, we've had a long, rich conversation all day around humanitarian action or inaction, around innovation and the role that it could play in helping shape this system. You're someone who's been in this sector for a long time, but more so, you're someone who has heart for the work that you do. Talk to us about that.
Thank you, Hazami. I think, first of all, I just want to share that I'm so fortunate to be working at the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies in the headquarters in Geneva. And we're a membership organization with 190 national societies around the world and more than 11 million volunteers. And we're talking about more than half of the volunteers are young people. So we're really lucky to be able to engage with young people. And as you said, innovation has to be key in what we do in partnership. The world has so many challenges, and I think the only way we're even going to think about achieving the SDGs or even to meet the humanitarian needs today is only when we can start doing things together, and we have to do things differently.
So what does that mean? A lot of the work that you do is innovative. You work on partnerships that are strategic. You work with, obviously still in partnership with the UN. You work with civil society, but you also work with people and the people on the ground all over the world. So what does that partnership look like?
I think the first thing is really about, humanity and dignity. We can talk about humanitarian crises, but actually we should be talking about people. And what I think we try to focus on is really about talking to people who are affected by crisis, and often they know, what might be the best solutions they want. I talked a lot about innovation, and when we talk to young people in, for example, flood-affected countries, we support them to do their own local innovations. And I think building that culture of respect and for people affected by crises who can sometimes try to find their own solutions. So that's the different approach. And the other thing, of course, is you and I know financing is always a problem, right? We talk about humanitarian financing and financing for SDGs, but money alone is not going to solve the problem. It's really about a whole mindset shift that you and I and everybody else in this world has a right to live with dignity. Just as we have a right to go to school and a right to water, food, shelter, health, everyone should have that right. So then how do we redefine how we achieve those goals, right?
So I'm curious the role, a lot of what we stand for is inclusivity. And the Global People Summit, we firmly believe that in order to kind of create that space, you have to start with a very simple idea of a conversation.
Yes.
A lot of the work that you do also interfaces with people. You collect human stories and help provide spaces for those stories to create solutions. So tell us about that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, let me give you a little story about, my experience with this. Everyone's talking about cash programming and how, that's the solution for the humanitarian sector. But the human story around cash is a woman in Africa who was followed by my boss with her cash voucher to a store. And he thought, okay, maybe she's going to buy some food and so on and so forth. But she bought a bottle of shampoo and a bottle of lice medication, and he was surprised, and he asked her, why did you choose this? And her simple answer was, we have so little. My children are, sort of ostracized because they have head lice, and I want to make sure they're clean and that they can, be part of the community. And so it boils down to human dignity. And often we fly in food and water and stuff, which is really important. But I think having conversations with people, what they want, and putting cash into their hands so they have choice becomes very important.
I think what you're saying is so central to what's missing and why a lot of frustration tends to build up with people when they look at the humanitarian sector or the services sectors as a whole, because people are treated as victims rather than partners in change. They are told what to do and what they deserve, whether it's rations of money or rations of food. For all the inspiring humanitarians out there that are working to really create change in their community, how do you keep hope when sometimes what you deal with is magnitudes of disasters, whether it's natural or man-made. How do you keep hope, and what's your advice to young people that really want to get in the space of change to not lose that hope when sometimes it seems so dark?
Well, the first thing I will say is it is not as, I think the humanitarian sector, I've been in it for more 20 years now. It really is so much better now than it was when I started. There's so much improvement, whether it's through the UN or the Red Cross or NGOs, and it's people now taking action themselves, right? It's young people who don't wait for organizations. They want to go and do things. So that's really very positive. How do we keep hope? By reflecting on and celebrating the success we have. The stories that we can tell each other about the child who, was able to go to school. I remember I was sitting on the edge of a mountain in Pakistan after the earthquake, and it was Eid, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I'm sitting in the mountains of Pakistan, my family's home, and they must be having such a wonderful time, and I feel so alone. Until a little girl came to me with grubby fingers, right, and had a little plate of sweet rice and came to me, sat next to me and put it to my lips, and she said, Eid Mubarak.
Oh.
A very simple thing, a gesture of so much love, and I think that kind of thing, those little stories that each of us who have been out there and doing this work can tell ourselves that in the midst of people who have so little, they are sometimes the most generous, and 100%. We owe it to them to keep going.
Yes, and thank you for reminding us that, Dr. Jermilah, and for joining us here in the studio, and the best of luck to you in all the work that you do. And we really appreciate you leaving us with that very inspiring kind of message of always find hope and those beautiful moments amidst despair. And I think that's applicable to any of the work that we do. And